The traditional Protestant view of Bible prophecy is that it is being fulfilled through history. While there will be a coming apocalypse, there have been many prophecies fulfilled throughout the last 2,000 years of history and many troubles. Yet, we should expect that there is a period of blessing for the church at hand, not only in the future kingdom under Christ, but in this present time. Some have gone to an extreme, saying that Christ should take over the dominion of the world. However, this interpretation is incorrect and wishful thinking. Many traditional Anglo-Protestant believers did see that there would be a latter-day glory of the church, and this idea can also be found in the belief of revival by evangelicals and traditional Pentecostals. The true interpretation has been formed in Anglo-Protestantism. Most people have heard of John Milton and Isaac Newton, but before them was Joseph Mead. Joseph Mead was a Puritan from Cambridge who excelled in mathematics, editing the King James Bible, and made a large inquiry into the book of Revelation. This 1627 book, called The Key to the Apocalypse, was highly influential on the English church. When writing about the sixth vial, mentioned in Revelation chapter 16, he wrote that it will be poured out upon the great river Euphrates, so that, being dried up, a passage may be prepared for the new enemies of the beast to come from the east, that is, for the Israelites, wonderfully converted to the pure faith and worship of Christ, and now become candidates for the kingdom promised for so many ages, whom the followers of the beast perhaps may be inclined to consider as the army of the fictitious Antichrist, to arise from the Jews, of whom they do not hesitate to assert that even we of this day are the forerunners, God thus avenging their obstinacy in error. But what then, shall we say, is this Euphrates whose waters shall be dried up? I think the Ottoman Empire will be the only obstacle to these new enemies from the east, and a defence on the part of the beast. Later students of prophecy witnessed the decline of the Ottoman Empire, though Turkey still remained, and the Islamic religion was as yet strong. Ironically, Roman Catholics masterminded the formation of the Islamic religion. But we shall labour in vain in our conjectures concerning a thing which is wholly future, as to the means by which, or the authors by whom, it is to be effected, whether by the Jews themselves, as Ezekiel perhaps intimates, chapter 38-39, taking possession of the Holy Land by the restoration of their former state, or by some intestine dissension, opportunely preceding their return, or by both, perhaps in successive order, or by some other cause. Students of Bible prophecy recognized that the formation of the State of Israel was a vital step in the fulfilling of Ezekiel's prophecy, in which a large northern army, interpreted to come from Moscow and Tobolsk, and their confederates, and Persia, Libya, and Ethiopia, would invade Israel. This was primary in the attention of the British during the Crimean War, when fighting Russia was seen as a necessary stopgap. The Battle of Gallipoli in World War I was supposed to be a campaign to capture Constantinople and to keep it out of Russian hands. The subsequent liberating of Palestine and the eventual formation of the State of Israel was supported by the British and eventually by the Americans where and when Christian concerns for the Jews prevailed. In fact, anti-Semitism has been strong in many places, including Papal Rome. Oliver Cromwell's decision to allow the Jews into England was a Christian one. The reason for the Anglo-Protestant nation's prosperity was not only because they helped the Jews, but because God's providence would be to use them in the conversion of the Jews at a future stage. The views of Russia were seen, especially since 1917, the revolution, in this light. That year Palestine was in British hands thanks to General Allenby and the Australian Light Horse. Although the soldier is usually careless of the associations of the country over which he is fighting, these troops took a remarkable close and intelligent interest in the battlegrounds of the Old Testament and of the Crusades. All, or nearly all, the Christian troops had, during the long campaign, diligently read their Bible as they had never read it before, and were arrested by the amazing fidelity of its atmosphere and colour. What is most interesting is that the Australian Army personnel carried King James Bibles with them, which were printed by Cambridge University Press. That same year, the popular Scofield Bible appeared, which clearly identified the prophecy of Ezekiel 38 and 39 with Russia. Thus, it was easy for the Americans to identify Russia as the enemy throughout the Cold War. Ezekiel shows that after Israel seems to be dwelling safely, the Russian-led Confederacy would come and enter Israel. The fact that the United States is not mentioned in Bible prophecy is significant. Yet the invading army would fall, and the last of the Euphrates Power would fail, meaning the end of any kind of Islamic Empire or caliphate, or whatever form the Russian Confederacy would take in its control over the Middle East. It would be dried up. The fall of them would open up a Christian evangelistic campaign onto Europe. The way of approach is, by some means, said to be prepared for these new Christians from the East, and that, as it appears, for the purpose of undertaking an expedition against the beast, to whose destruction all the vials are subservient. From whence otherwise, and for what reason, should such a trepidation and panic cease upon the followers of the beast, and even the demons themselves, from the time of the drying up of the river, as to occasion such a horrible and unheard of preparation for war, as is here described, unless they, with the whole diabolical cohort, feared every extremity from the ascension of the new kings of the East. No Anglo-Protestant nation exists in the East except the nations of Oceania. The prophecy indicates that the Jews would begin to be converted to the gospel in the latter days. This would accord with the prophesied outpouring of the Spirit, which would precede, perhaps by many years, the time of the return of Christ. It was this essential idea of the Jews' future conversion which was seen as vitally important by the Puritans. Considering that the English language is now common in Israel, and that various passages of scriptures show that the truth would come to the Jews in another tongue, and show a pure language, which means the English Bible, the prophecy of Romans 11 would be fulfilled. Salvation is come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them, the Jews, to jealousy. Even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy, and so all Israel shall be saved.